Hello. Hello and welcome to this video. So as we are progressing through the Python standard library, we have got the Textwrap library for wrapping and filling. So first I will show you examples so that you can see that what we can do with this library. So suppose we have a long string message, okay? Then what we can do is we can call Textwrap to fill this message with the maximum width of 60 characters. And if you want to see how that will look like when you run the program, I'll show you. So we go to CD, videos, Python 3 programming, and let me increase the font a bit. And we say Python page textwrap 1.5. So see how the message is now wrapped with a maximum of 60 characters. Okay, that is one use. So typically this function is provided by editors which do text wrapping. Okay. So now we will see something different. Okay. Suppose we want to indent code in a log. So programs or logs, they print messages for error detection or resolution, and then you have debug messages which you may need to prepare some report on based on what data is coming and all that. And there is a compliance of things you can have. Suppose there is a log message, essentially a long string. So we do similar thing. We call wrap. We call fill with the maximum width of 70, but this time we indent with something called a prefix. Okay, so the prefix log colon space will be put before every line. So you can customize this prefix based on the kind of information you are passing. For example, it could be informational message, it could be debug message, it could be error, it could be critical, and so on. Now we will look at the third one. So give me a moment. The third one is like putting a summary. Okay. So third one shortens a piece of text. So suppose we have this piece of text. For example, on Facebook, you see a post and then there is something there at the end, which is see more. Or on LinkedIn, the post is shortened. You have triple dots, then there is see more or load more. So this one, what it will do is it will shorten the text to 80 characters and the placeholder will be triple dot or ellipsis. So we run this and there you go, 80 characters with triple dot here. Now we look at another piece of code, and this time we will wrap a long piece of string which cannot be broken. Okay. So suppose you have this long word concatenated by underscore. So usually editors won't break this. Emacs or VS Code or PyCharm won't break this piece of text. So if you want to break that, you need to give the break long words is equal to 2 option and break on hyphens. So 2 options you pass, and let's see how this looks like. So we run this and it is broken on super long. So in English, there is something called phonetics, and it determines where a word can be broken. Okay, so there is the grammar logic which is built in to break at hyphens. Now we look at another one. Suppose we have this text, and what we want to do is we want to frame a nice box around this piece of text. So first thing what we do is we wrap this in a width of 40. Oh, let me increase the font. I forgot to increase the font. So this is no space. And we set it to say 17. Okay, that's nice. So I'll show you the entire example that what we did so that you can read it, and if you want, you can type it. Okay. Now suppose this message is there and you want to wrap inside a box. So what we do on the first line, we print plus, then 42 minus or hyphens, and then plus again. And then we iterate over line in lines. So this will return a list of lines. So first character is pipe followed by space. We print line by left justifying for 40 characters and then space and pipe. So these two spaces constitute 42 characters, 40 of this and then two spaces, and plus for pipe and plus for pipe. And then at the end, we again print plus and hyphen and plus. So let's see how the output looks like. Okay, sorry, I have not saved it. Let me save it. So this way you can create nice stuff on your console. Now we look at another example. So suppose you have to generate some sort of report, and you have the one function here, format section. So what it does is it creates a text wrapper class with width 60, and then it calls fill on that wrapper, and then it returns title plus minus length of title, whatever the title is, those many minuses. And then on the new line, you put in the wrapped content, that is this, whatever this fill will return. So the generate report has 3 sections: intro, stats, and issues. So initially the report variable is empty string, then you add the daily report summary, which is filled by intro, then statistics, and then issues. So these 3 are long, and finally you print this report. So this report can be emailed. Okay. Now, one of the reasons of formatting this width to 80 characters is that many systems don't accept text longer than 80 characters, and they're hard-coded or rather limited to display 80 characters in line. So what will happen, this kind of very ugly, if you see here, the generated is broken. It's not a new line, okay? It is continuation. There is nothing between this N and this E. So this kind of thing will happen if you send an email, and certain mailing lists don't even accept rich text format or HTML. They take plain text. So in those cases, you need to provide plain text for your emailing. So in that case, this can be quite handy. So let's run this to see what it does. So it does similar stuff like preparing the console UI, but it has far less code. So the essence is that you create you have one function and it does formatting for 3 different pieces of code. So you can invoke on as many number of pieces of text as you want, and you can generate, and if you want, you can include it in a report. So you have seen quite a few examples of Textwrap. So now I will go through the theory. The reason I went for the practical first is because you guys, in general, people don't like theory. Okay, people get bored. That's why the examples are first. So let's go through this library and I will try to finish it today. So the source code is here. If you want, you can click it and it will show you the entire code. If you are willing to read it, you can go ahead and read it. It's not very big, 475 lines only. So it gives us some convenience functions and a class text wrapper, okay, which does all the work. So the first function which we are discussing is textwrap.wrap. It takes text, which is mandatory argument. Width by default is 70. Then it takes a list. Initial indent is empty string. Subsequent indent is empty string. Expand tabs. This comes handy when you want to indent the first line of a paragraph. Indent initial and subsequent indent. Expand tabs is true. That is to convert tabs into spaces, replace white space to true. Fix sentence endings false. Break long words true. So the arguments are itself describing what will they do. Drop white space true, break on hyphens true, tab size is 8, max lines is none, and placeholder is ellipsis. It wraps a single paragraph in a text string so that every line is at most width character long, returns a list of output lines without final new lines. Optional keyword argument correspond to the instance attributes of text wrapper documented below. So now we have fill and it has similar input, almost similar input. Okay. So wraps a single paragraph in text, returns a single string containing the wrapped paragraph. Fill is shorthand for \n dot join wrap text. So basically, whatever wrap gives you, you are joining that piece of text with new lines. So you see, it does not add new line. Wrap does not add new line, while fill does that. So you have to call fill on top of the output of wrap. Then it is shortened. We have already seen what shorten does. It will take a text, it will take a width, and it will make the text at most that many characters. And placeholder we have supplied, which works like that. So examples are given here. You can go through this. Optional keyword arguments correspond to the instance attributes of text wrapper documented below. Note that the white space is collapsed before the text is passed to the text wrapper. Fill function. So changing the value of tab size, expand tabs, drop white spaces, replace white spaces will have no effect. Then we have didn't. So like we have indent, we have didn't. Remove any common leading white space from every line in text. You can think of this like else strip of strings class, okay? Or rather str class. This can be used to make triple quoted strings line up with the left edge of the display while still presenting them in the source code in indented form. Note that tabs and spaces are both treated as white space, but they are not equal. The line, this line, and \t hello are considered to have no common leading white space. Lines containing only white space are ignored in the output and apply to a single new line character in the output. So this is something you have to take care of. Then there is an example. We don't need to go through that. Then we have indent. So indent will add the prefix like we did for the logger where we added log colon. Okay. So lines are separated by calling text split lines with key appends true. By default, prefix is added to all the lines that do not consist solely of white spaces, including any of line endings. So if a line has empty spaces only or a line is empty, then the prefix is not added to that. Prefix is there, they do not consist. All right. The optional predicate argument can be used to control which lines are indented. For example, it is easy to add prefix to even empty and white space only lines. So if you give the lambda line true argument, then it will add plus to everything. So this predicate does that. So if you return something like true in a lambda, it will add plus to everything. It will override that default behavior. Wrap, fill, shorten work by creating a text wrapper instance and calling a single method on it. That instance is not to use. So for application that process many text strings using wrap and or fill, it may be more efficient to create your own text wrapper object. Text is preferably wrapped on white spaces and right after the hyphens in the hyphenated words. Only then will long words be broken if necessary, unless text wrapper break long words is set to false. So text wrapper is there, it takes TW arguments and you can pass anything, but it has not shown the arguments. All right. So these arguments are actually passed to text wrapper. Okay. Whatever we have seen in fill and wrap, those arguments are passed to the text wrapper class. Where was I? Over here. Okay. The text wrapper constructor accepts a number of optional keyword arguments. Each keyword argument corresponds to an instance attribute. So for example, this text wrapper initial indent is star space is equal to create the object and then you set the initial indent manually. You can reuse the same text wrapper object many times and you can change any of its options through direct assignment to instance attributes between the use. So width is by default 70, the maximum length of the wrap lines. As long as there are no individual words in the input text longer than width, text wrapper guarantees that no output line will be longer than the width characters. Expand tabs means tab will be expanded by spaces. Your typical VS Code functionality, tab size is default 8. You can set it to 4 depending on your need. Replace white spaces means if true tab space expansion, but before wrapping, the wrap method will replace each white space character with single space. The white space characters placed are as follows: tab, new line, vertical tab, form it, and carry return. If expand tabs is false and replace white spaces is true, each tab character will be replaced by a single space, which is not the same as tab expansion. If replace white spaces is false, new lines may appear in the middle of a line and cause strange output. For this reason, text should be split into paragraphs using str.split lines or similar, which are wrapped separately. Then we have drop white spaces, which is true. If true, white space at the beginning and end of every line after wrapping but before indenting is dropped. White space at the beginning of the paragraph, however, is not dropped if non-white space follows it. If white space being dropped takes up the entire line, then the whole line is dropped. Initial indent we have seen, subsequent indent, okay, let me show you this, okay. Let me show you this, how this works. So we will go and revisit our example of log, okay. Let's see this program. So what we can do is, okay, for example, instead of prefix, we can say that initial indent, where was that? Okay, that is fine. And then we add prefix is required. Prefix. So what we will do is prefix we will set to empty string and okay. So this will go here. And subsequent indent we will say info. Okay, let's add this. So see what will happen. First line should come with log and further lines should come with info. You see, first line comes with log and further lines comes with info. So then we have fixed sentence endings. If true, text wrapper attempts to detect sentence endings and ensure that sentences are always separated by exactly two spaces. This is generally desired for text in a monospaced form. However, the sentence detection algorithm is imperfect. It assumes that a sentence ending consists of a lowercase letter followed by one of dot, exclamation mark, or question mark, possibly followed by one of double quotes or single quotes, followed by a space. One problem with this algorithm is that it is unable to detect the difference between doctor dr .in and spot .in this. So this doctor is basically not an ending. It is not a full stop, but this one is a full stop. It does not distinguish on its own. Since the sentence detection algorithm relies on string lowercase for the definition of lowercase letter and a convention of leaving two spaces after period to separate sentences on the same line, it is specific to English language text. We have seen how break long words work, break on hyphen works, max lines we already know. So output can contain maximum number of lines. Placeholder we have seen, the triple dot and wrap we have seen, and fill also we have seen. So break on hyphens, okay. This let me see. So this I will read as I said. If true, wrapping will occur preferably on white spaces and right after hyphens in compound words, as it is customary in English. If false, only white spaces will be considered as potentially good places for line breaks. So with this, we come to the end of this video. I hope that you have enjoyed the examples. In the next video, we will continue the documentation and let's see what we have. We have Unicode database, we have Textwrap. We will bypass this. We are not going to study Unicode data and Textwrap. You read that on your own. And we will go and read the important library readline, which is quite important. You can do lots of fun stuff with readline. So in the next video, we'll study readline. Unicode data and string prep are useful, but their use cases are quite rare. You don't program in that fashion in day-to-day work. Okay. So I'll end this video. I hope you are enjoying the playlist and I hope that you enjoyed the switch between example and theory order. Earlier, I used to give theory before and then examples after, but now I'm giving examples first and then theory. So I thank you for watching the video, and I wish you all the best in your programming career. Keep programming, and I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy.